I have a client who is in a very interesting niche, put it that way. And I was trying my hardest to get them leads through search. It wasn't really working. After about 6 months, we trialed a performance max campaign. Lo and behold, we started to see, like I said before, it's like the lights got turned on inside the house. And, we started getting so many conversions coming in. Welcome back to another episode of the PPC Cave with me, Ryan Fenton, and my co-host, Gene Villanos. In this episode, it's all about a recap episode. We're going to be going over what campaign type should you run, what campaign type should you run in Google Ads. And, we've gone through a lot. We've gone through search, shopping, display, YouTube, apps, smart campaigns. We've kind of covered everything, I think. And if you don't really know where to go in terms of, which campaign type should I run, which one should I look at first, this recap episode is probably a good starting point to kind of identify, okay, which episode should I run first, and then go from there. So, Gene, we've gone through a lot of the episodes in terms of the campaigns. Is there one that's been your favorite, or?
Yeah, I think my favorite one, not to say that it's better without you, but was the small budget e-commerce store because it's not better without you. I just like to be able to provide value in a way where it's not always 50 pounds or dollars each day or 100, high spend budgets don't are not the only companies or organizations that could utilize or use Google Ads. So, what about you?
Well, because you said that, my favorite episode was the one where you weren't in it, um, because you weren't hanging around and interrupting me all the time. So, no, I think the earlier ones that we did, the search campaign was really good. The performance max, I think we added a lot of value in that one, as we did the standard shopping, and I think those are the main three that we usually go through and talk about and set up at least. So, yeah, I think we're going to be recapping all of them anyway. But did you want to take it away, or do you want me to just jump straight in and keep
Yeah.
the floor going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
whatever you say. Cool. So one of the main ones that we talked about again was the search campaign, and that is your bread and butter campaign. I think that if there's any business or niche or industry or sector, a search campaign can be quite flexible, and you can run a search campaign for any of those, I think, and it'll still have its place. So I think that is usually the go-to, is the number one, and you can do things like a brand campaign. You could do competitor campaign if you wanted to. You could do a general campaign. You could do a top of funnel. You could do really, really specific. You can do remarketing with search campaigns, all from a search campaign. So that's the one that's really the most versatile for many different industries and sectors. And I don't know if any of you watched the walkthrough that I did, but I really wanted to take a bit of time out to explain how to set up and show you guys how to set up and create a search campaign. So hopefully you all watched that one and found it quite valuable. If you hadn't, then it's episode 8, I believe, in the series. I could be wrong. But it's just a walkthrough of me showing you what I do when I create a search campaign. So go back and watch that if you need a little bit of help. Gene, what's your experiences with the search campaign?
Yeah, I mean, the search campaign, as we mentioned before, is the original campaign, the very first campaign Google Ads ever rolled out. This is the very genesis, the beginning. So a lot of the features that we have now for the newer campaign types are built off of that. And a lot of even just Performance Max is built off of that. If you have a good search campaign that's running, that's bringing in valid traffic, that's relevant, that's getting conversions and conversion volume, then it attributes to a better Performance Max campaign. So yeah, we love search here. It's always a staple. I think it should be ran in every single campaign for Google Ads. Just that's my approach. I'm always going to have a search campaign. So if you haven't, make sure that you do look at the or watch the episode 8 walkthrough, because that kind of gives you a little bit of a setup perspective of how Ryan's process is with search. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think you can have it open as well. Like you could have it on one screen, watching me walk through and almost like a step-by-step guide, as you create your own search campaign for your business. I know a lot of business owners out there don't know how to maybe create a search campaign, or they open up a new Google Ads account. What is the best campaign type to run? Search campaign should be up there as one of the first that you kind of go towards. I audit so many accounts, and I saw, most of the time when people don't really understand what Google Ads is, they'll run a smart campaign, and it's really just not profitable. It's very low quality. So I encourage and I urge a lot of you, if you are business owners, if you're new to the Google Ads game, whatever you are, go through episode 8. Just watch me create a search campaign. I think it'll answer a lot of questions that you guys have, and hopefully give you a bit of guidance. So yeah, big on search campaigns. But the other one that at least I'm big on, Gene might disagree, is a standard shopping campaign. I really love standard shopping campaigns. There's a lot of opportunity there for optimization. You have a lot more control over what you can do in a standard shopping campaign as opposed to a performance max campaign. And Gene's going to touch on performance max in a little bit, but in that episode, in the standard shopping campaign episode, we talked about how, you don't really bid on keywords, you kind of bid on products to a degree. And you have your search terms coming in that you can kind of stay on top of and add as negative keywords, just as you would in a search campaign. But you have that control, you have that ability. The same with audiences, the same with devices, locations, all of them you can kind of sculpt and funnel towards what's working and take it away from what isn't working. So that's one of the many reasons I love standard shopping. And recently, I've been testing a low target ROAS strategy. So target return on ad spend, ROAS as it's called, is just a kind of a strategy that's out there at the moment, going through different account managers, whereby you on purpose have a low target return on ad spend goal. So rather than say, right, I want a 10 to 1 return on ad spend, or I want a 20 to 1 return on ad spend, in the low target return on ad spend strategy, you would say, give me a 50% return, give me a 100% return. And the way that it works is that Google can say, well, I can easily do that. I'm going to go get you that. And then I can, watch this, I can get you even more. So that's kind of how it works. There's a lot more to it than that. I'm not doing it justice. You probably, do your own research around it. I'm sure you'll find out more about it than what I'm really describing, because I've only just really stumbled upon it. I'm learning as I go, but the results I'm seeing by using a return on ad spend strategy in standard shopping has been really promising. So I'd encourage you guys to take a look at that as well. But yeah, I do like standard shopping. It's one of my favorite campaigns to run, in all honesty. And I think I mentioned that in episode 11. So if you want to know more about standard shopping, go over to episode 11 in the series, take a look at that, and let us know if you have any questions. I mean, Gene, you used to run a lot of standard shopping campaigns, and I know we both really enjoyed smart shopping campaigns. Was there a thing? Do you want to tell the people on the PPC Cave about the course that you nearly put out there,
Yeah,
or are we keeping that
yeah.
under wraps?
No, yeah, I was working a couple years back. I think it was maybe a year after COVID, maybe like 2021. I was really working on a standard shopping campaign course, but there's all these negative connotations with people putting out courses or whatever it may be, and couple that with just Performance Max being put thrown in the mix. And now you get something better than me selling a course. You get me and Ryan doubling the value, giving this out, all the information for free. So may count it a blessing, y'all, that I didn't get rich off a course, and we're doing it the old school way, giving credibility and information for free.
Do you have any of that content still available? I mean, maybe that's something we could create a playlist on the channel or something and get people into standard shopping.
A lot of it was just the bullet points and the talking points in Canva that was, laid out. I think I had about 4 or 5 episodes, or 4 or 5
Wow.
modules. Modules is
Mhm.
what I called it. But the recording, not so much. I think it is still on the cloud on Canva, because you keep everything, that's recorded on the cloud. But yeah, I think that might be for a Patreon or something.
Yeah.
If we down the road, well, you come subscribe if you really love us, you want more of us, you get access to the course that would have been in 2021.
Wow. I want to subscribe. I want to see old school Gene walk through standard shopping. But I guess this is the thing, right? Because standard shopping, similar to search, has been around for so long. So much has changed in terms of search. So much has changed in terms of standard shopping that I don't know how much. Like, is it still relevant? Would you say in 2024, or would you say it's not?
Absolutely. I think standard shopping until it goes away will remain relevant. We mentioned search earlier and the way that you optimize for being on google.com on a search side, it's so vastly different from optimizing on google.com on the shopping side, which both of those are high intent because they remain on google.com. So I think the fact that it's still around, we should definitely utilize it. And by default, another portion of Google Shopping and optimization, other than negative keywords or products and the type of how you segment your products, is also Google Merchant Center, which Performance Max uses also. So I think as baseline, learning search, learning standard shopping will definitely be the foundational for any campaign type in the future. If it be Performance Max or whatever else they roll out, I think it'll still be somehow relevant.
Thank you. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, to be fair. And I think it speaks volumes that we've had smart shopping, we've got performance max, and yet standard shopping is still there. It's still being, it's still front and center. It's still being like, you can create a new campaign and you'll see search and shopping and performance max video. But if you go onto that shopping section, you'll see in the drop down performance max or standard shopping. So it's still there. You still can use it. It's not kind of gone away or anything like that. And hopefully it's here to stay because, I think it's similar to manual bidding. You've got to kind of cater to a lot of advertisers. You've kind of got to give them control, little control, no control. There's so many different people there with different knowledge levels, different backgrounds and experiences. A business owner who doesn't have the time to be individually managing product level bids or keyword level bids, can easily go and maybe start a performance max campaign where it's a little bit more hands off, but still get really good results. So I think it just speaks volumes that a standard shopping campaign is still inside the account. We can still run it. So that's episode 11. And then going over a couple of episodes after that, episode 13, we talked about a YouTube campaign. And this is the one that I'm starting to see more of. I think more and more people are starting to run video campaigns, YouTube campaigns, things like that, because I think I'm not going to say it's an untapped market, but if you consider what the search engines are, Google and really Bing, if you think, YouTube is arguably the third biggest search engine, because I use YouTube. Gene, I'm sure you use YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, hello, you're using YouTube. Welcome. This is the thing, though, is that you searched for us. You searched to find, Google Ads tips or PPC tips or whatever it might be, and we've came up, and hopefully you're watching us. But this is the thing, is that you've gone out of your way to actively search for this show, this podcast. So there's intent there from people. There's intent from users. So potentially YouTube is the third biggest search network. I'm sure I read it somewhere. I don't think that's just a fact that I'm just kind of pulling out of thin air. I'm pretty sure it's accurate. So how can you take advantage of people searching on YouTube? By using video campaigns, YouTube ads, and even creating a performance max campaign. If you don't have the production value, if you don't have the budget to create a YouTube campaign, a YouTube video, sorry, then what you can do is you can create a performance max campaign, and then you can do a slideshow type of video inside a performance max campaign, and that can work really well. I believe I mentioned in that episode, I have a client who is in a very interesting niche, put it that way. And I was trying my hardest to get them leads through search. It wasn't really working. After about 6 months, we trialed a performance max campaign. Lo and behold, we started to see, like I said before, it's like the lights got turned on inside the house. And, we started getting so many conversions coming in. That's in a lead generation, like a service-based business kind of perspective. Historically, it might be attributed more to like products and things like that because you're trying to sell with Performance Max and especially videos and things like that, sell products. But actually, it can work in a lead generation environment. Performance Max, that is kind of getting off topic here a little bit, but bringing it back, they didn't have the budget to create a video campaign, and that's why I created a video ad inside Performance Max. I ran that, and we started to see a lot more conversions coming in because I think that's where their market was hanging out. Gene's going to touch on Performance Max soon anyway, but just to kind of recap on YouTube, it has its place. It's an up and coming campaign type, in my opinion. I'm starting to see more and more advertisers use it. I'm starting to see more and more conversions come through because of it. And you might not always see it convert because it's not a conversion based strategy, campaign type rather. It's an awareness one. It's reach. It's all about growing brand awareness. So you got to treat it as such. It's not always going to convert. It might do, and the times that it does, that's great, but you're going to see conversions come through other campaign types. You can put your video out there on YouTube, but you might see it eventually convert through direct traffic or, SEO maybe, or even your search campaign, for example. So it's a good campaign type to run. And I'm running one currently, a video campaign in a client account. Doesn't convert, but it's having an indirect impact into the other campaign types I'm running because after doing tests, I noticed a increase in conversion volume after running it. Gene, any thoughts on YouTube campaigns?
No, I think you pretty much summed up YouTube pretty well. The extent that I use YouTube primarily now is within Performance Max, but yeah, I think standalone YouTube campaigns still work for sure.
Cool. So if you want to learn more about YouTube campaigns and the benefits that they have and how to kind of set them up, take a look at episode 13. Again, I think it'll kind of cover some fundamental bases for you, answer some questions, and then you might be in a better position to go out and create a YouTube campaign. I know that on the horizon, Gene and I were going to do a lot more how-to demonstrational videos, so you can see our screens as we go in and show you how to run certain campaign types, like we did with, the search campaign, like we did with, I think, did we do a low budget e-commerce one you were saying as well? We saw that one, didn't we? We could put that out
Yeah.
there as well. We're going to send a lot more as well in terms of different campaign types, as well as some quick hits, how to do this, how to do that, how to add a user inside Google Ads, how to, do advertiser verification in Google Ads, how to create products in Google Merchant Center and things like that. So that's all going to be released in the near future. Gene and I are planning through that at the moment. But I'm going to shut up and let Gene take over in his kind of recap bits. Any final thoughts on search, standard shopping, YouTube before you crack on with yours?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think just knowing that the resource is there, that's why we create these recap episodes, is to make sure if you can't go through all of the content, all the value that we provide, making sure that you have this at the end for every single series that we create as a recap, where we give you a specific episode 11, 13, the walkthroughs, episode 8. Laying that all out, I think, is just super important, especially in this day and age where our attention span is very, very small and we're very busy. So I think it's important that we do a recap for something as complex and long form as Google Ads. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else, so I could go ahead and move through my bits. And first is episode 9, and that's Performance Max. Performance Max has been the talk of the town since 2021's release, and it's just really important that you understand how to navigate Performance Max and kind of what went before Performance Max, as Ryan was speaking on smart shopping, kind of transitioning into what Performance Max is. And there's a lot of that capability that came as smart shopping was rolled out that's kind of been repurposed and remixed with how Performance Max is now. So that is episode 9. And I did a, what do you call it, a walkthrough also in episode 10, where, you could kind of see how I would set up Performance Max campaign starting from scratch, and just doing so and seeing that, as Ryan said, you could have maybe a Performance Max campaign that you're creating and then have me on the side, and you can kind of go back and forth and use what you want to use, take out what you don't want to use, and just kind of make it your own thing. So I think that's super important. As we know, there has been multiple updates with Performance Max lately. And maybe one day we'll do like a news episode for first quarter, news episode second, third, and fourth quarter, kind of put it all together because it's always spurts, right? If you know and you're a Google manager, you get all these weird surveys, and a lot of the surveys sometimes I do them, sometimes I don't. But I think they really listen to what the PPC managers that use Performance Max needed to say, as you know, the late April Performance Max updates of just the creative assets you can use with Gemini being more so prevalent now, and you know how ad strength is now impacted by how many creatives you have, like assets and videos, and the diversity of those creatives. If you were to go head to head with someone as a competitor in the same niche and you're bidding and they have Performance Max and you have Performance Max, from what I'm understanding, the asset or the creative counts of images, videos, logos could be a deciding factor, along with the diversity of those different themes that you put in your asset group. So being up to date with something like Performance Max, as this has been their baby that they kind of want to really push, where yes, they have some visibility now, but beforehand, especially in 21, it was the dreaded black box of AI, you know, or of Google. So I think as we do continue to see Performance Max grow, there will be different iterations where they listen to the advertiser, hopefully, where we say we need more transparency. Where is the placement for this particular ad? I know it goes through all of the properties, but where can I exclude some? What can I do? You know, so yeah, if that's something that you know you want to put in your repertoire of clients running Performance Max campaigns, I think is really important to be up to date with any news that impacts that. But as Ryan was saying earlier, search is really important, and search is really important in regards to Performance Max. That's something that has not changed. If you don't have good Performance Max, I guess, conversions or volume of conversions, then revert back to see what you're actually bidding on search for. And that could really be the turning point of the quality of traffic that you receive on Performance Max by default, if your search campaign has high quality and the high purchase intent search terms in there, along with conversions and conversion volume. So I think that being in tandem is something that hasn't changed, and that's the very basic of it. You know, I could tell you all the bells and whistles of the new creatives that you should have, get in Canva, create a video, and all these things, in which you should do those things. But the basic and the core of it is using the signals from a search campaign into your Performance Max campaign, and that's kind of the baseline of the type of traffic that you'll receive through osmosis. Any quick, you know, replies or thoughts on that, Ryan?
No, I think I still have negative connotations towards Performance Max just because we were all a little bit, you know, when you mentioned there about 2021, where there was the uncertainty about AI taking over and things like that. But, you know, I think because Performance Max has kind of been born out of that a little bit, like panic and things like that. You know, I'm still not 100% trustworthy with it. And I think you make a really good point as well. And I've often thought this: if Google can come out and at least give us data to say, right, you know, 20% of the budget was spent on YouTube, you know, 10% was spent on the display network, you know, 5% on discovery, you know, 20% on remarketing or whatever, you know, just showing you where the budget has been weighted and kind of at least, you know, where the placements have come from and things like that. And I think they have. I think recently they did do something in terms of the reports. I'm yet to kind of go in and take a look for sure, but I just want more transparency. I want more understanding of, okay, what's working, what can we double down on? You know, if it's YouTube, okay, great. And after a 3 month or a 6 month Performance Max campaign, I've identified that, you know, YouTube, that's where all my target market is. I'm going to just go out now, pause the Performance Max campaign, create a video campaign and double down on that, and go out, give it its specific budget, and go after more YouTube based conversions and things like that. So having that data through Performance Max would be really key, I think, in order to scale accounts and go forward. But at the moment, still seems very smoke and mirrors. It still seems like that black box we all talk about of Performance Max. So it's difficult to say, really. But no, I don't get me wrong. Listen, I love Performance Max campaigns. I do use them, and like I said, this client that I had, if I hadn't tested a Performance Max campaign, probably wouldn't be my client today. In all honesty, so I do like them. I'm starting to use them more and more. In all honesty, but I just think, yeah, more transparency will be great.
Yeah, and despite of them having this update recently, they'll provide an update and then at the same time remove an ability to opt out of, say, Search Partner Network, which, as we've discussed before, kind of provides more relevancy. But it's the ever-changing landscape of Performance Max, which kind of leads me in as we talked about Performance Max episode 9 and the walkthrough in episode 10. The small budget ecom store episode in episode 12 is kind of where Performance Max, in my opinion, shines, because what I said here is if you have a small budget e-commerce store, either you're starting out or you're just starting out altogether, um, running search, shopping, and Performance Max as the remarketing agent for those clicks and visits is really important. And for me, it's these three. It's not just Performance Max and search or shopping and search. It's literally search, shopping, and Performance Max as the remarketing campaign. So I think that's important. And for me, I would never allocate Performance Max as a budget if you are doing this tactic higher than search and shopping, making sure that maybe it's 30% shopping or 40% search, and then the extra 30%, 20% is PMax. Just make sure PMax is the lowest allocated budget on this. Reason being is what me and Ryan have been talking about, is there is still a black box with Performance Max. And with search or shopping, what search terms you're bidding on. What search terms are providing you conversion. Depending on the attribution that you have in your conversion settings, that. So with Performance Max, you see the product that could have gotten a conversion, but attributing where, when, what search term, what placement, all of those things are still part of the black box. So it's very, very difficult to start off with Performance Max on a particular campaign or account where you don't have conversion volume and you're just putting all your money in Performance Max. That is a recipe for disaster. And even if you are doing really well with Performance Max and you're seeing the conversion volume, the value, I find it very finicky when you try to scale a Performance Max campaign. If you have a good ROAS and you let the ROAS hold for 1 or 2 weeks, make sure that it's all good, maybe even put a target ROAS in there to make sure that holds in Performance Max, and then you add budget to it, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to hold that return on ad spend forever and ever and ever. Amen. That's not how Performance Max works, because you don't have those signals to look at and to dissect. Okay, yeah, the search term that's getting me conversion volume and value is still the one that I'm bidding on the most, or is still coming in a lot. You don't see that with Performance Max. So that's why I always tell clients, and just y'all, I want to tell y'all, even if your Performance Max campaign is doing good and you put budget on it immediately, where it's spiking that budget, that doesn't necessarily play out all that well, every single time, because every single account, every single website, every single Google Merchant Center is so different that Performance Max, even your competitors within the space, it's all different. So very, very careful when you're using Performance Max and scaling that up. Yeah. Have you had any of that issue, Ryan, where you see Performance Max doing well and you're like, okay, well, if a shopping campaign is doing well, a search campaign is doing well, I'm going to add budget to it. I've waited the adequate amount to see the ROAS hold, add budget to it. But with Performance Max, that doesn't necessarily translate to holding that ROAS and continuing on with adding budget. Do you ever experience that?
Yeah, I will say this about one of the old agencies that I used to work for, the last one. We were very quick to adopt like you know new technology and new campaign types and things like that. So for example, when Performance Max came out, we were really hot off the heels on it. We, you know, turned it on straight away, started testing it and things like that. One of the first things we found out is like, yeah, let's go from like £10 a day or whatever, all the way up to like £80 a day. It killed the campaign. Like we could not,
Ah,
it just paused results. Like it was doing all right, in terms of conversions and things like that. We went from 0 to 60, and then all of a sudden it just stopped running. No impressions, no clicks, no nothing. It's like, what happened here? Then we realized over time it's slow and steady wins the race, small increments of increases. So you want to be like, okay, you're at £10 a day, let's take you up to £20 a day. You're at £20 a day, maybe go up to 30, 30 to 50, things like that. So it's very gradual in its approach. And I'm not saying do this every day or every 3 days. I probably say every week or every 5 to 7 days, go in, add an extra five, maybe £10, $5, $10, wherever you're from, and do it that way, because then you're still, it's an algorithm, you don't want to overload the algorithm. You don't want to kind of confuse the system. You want to kind of say, right, okay, now we're starting to see this. It's just gradually creep on up. And that's the best way to kind of, from what I've seen, increase budgets in a performance max campaign and scale performance a little bit.
that's kind of the name of the game for shopping and search too. But what I've seen, and I think Ryan and me are in the same boat, with Performance Max, it's so much more sensitive. And when you start to lose that algorithm where you're not getting the volume or the value or the ROAS that you were before because you're trying to fire in so much budget and greed and just not knowing, that all takes place. And then you're like, oh, why isn't there conversions? Why are the conversion value down? Why is the volume down? Then you start looking at the audience. I got to segment down. You start freaking out. Oh, I had more search terms. I got to make it, I got to exclude everything. I got to only put the states that are getting conversions. Well, maybe for shopping and search, that works great. The Performance Max takes this whole picture of the journey, not just the search terms, not just the headlines, just get the whole thing. So that's why it's so tricky. And if you need help, me and Ryan can help you. Next, all other campaign types, episode 14. We kind of saved this for last, just out of transparency. These are the stragglers that we don't really use as much as the big three: PMAX, shopping, and search, manual shopping and search. But, we're here to provide the overall executive overview of all these campaign types. So even with apps and games, making sure we're defining goals. If you're running apps and games, you understand that this is probably the only, if this is your offering, this is probably one of the very few that you should definitely be using and utilizing, but understanding to define the goal. You're only going to be in these two buckets if you're looking for apps and games installs. Basically going to be, do you need more installs? Do you need more people to actually install the game? Or are you at that point where the installs are good? Let's see if we get more profit with the in-app purchases. And the in-app purchases works well. I think you have to have 200,000 downloads or 150,000 downloads, something like that, to even utilize this segment. But this is where everyone wants to be, because some apps and some games are free. So how do you charge? How do you make money? It's going to be in-app purchases. So making sure you define that goal and go through all these understandings of where your actual apps and games are going to be put on. And, that's basically the display network of Google. Moving on is display network. Me and Ryan had a pretty lengthy conversation about this other campaign type from, what should we do with display standalone? And we both agree that display standalone is just very tough when you put it next to just a Performance Max campaign as your remarketing agent. It's going to be a lot of brand awareness. You're going to get a lot of relevant clicks. It's going to be very, very cheap, but you get what you pay for. It could be very cheap, but then you not really find meaningful insights through conversions or conversion volume. Then it's not worth running something like this because it's cheap. You don't want to be in the game of Google Ads or utilizing Google Ads if the reason is it's cheap. You want to utilize Google Ads because you could target. You want to utilize Google Ads because there's valuable metrics, not because it's cheap. So if we were to redo this, not redo this, but if we were to talk about it again, we want to make sure that go with a Performance Max remarketing campaign over display. Smart. This is something that isn't smart as we're talking about this. Not to be confused with a smart shopping campaign. This is different. So this is a smart campaign where Google prides themselves and say that you could set this up in 15 minutes. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm guessing bad. If you could set something up in 15 minutes, means there's not a lot of inputs, maybe not a lot of ratchets and levers that you could actually put in to make this an effective campaign type. Definitely not a lot of information you could get out of it. Ryan, you chime in with this and show them your hate for smart campaigns. Show 'em.
Yeah, they're terrible. Oh man, they're just, it's, I don't even know where to begin. I'd say I'd begin by watching that episode, all of the campaign types, and skipping to smart shopping to really understand my displeasure of smart campaigns. They're just very low quality. The whole point of the campaign is just low qualityness. The trigger for just low quality searches, there's, I think you can only use broad match kind of keywords in there as well, and maximize clicks. It's just so little you can really do to optimize those campaigns. They're just really terrible. So yeah, don't run them, guys. Focus on the search campaign. If you must use a bit of automation, focus on the Performance Max campaign. Just don't use smart campaigns. They're absolutely tosh, terrible.
Yeah. So that's a perfect summation of
There you go.
of that portion. No, yeah, of that portion was smart. Thank you for that. And lastly is demand gen. A reminder, demand gen really thrives on the visual creatives of images and videos on your mobile. So video, image on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Discover, and Gmail. And if you look at dissecting a Performance Max campaign, as Ryan talked about, you have the portions of search and shopping, with the feed coming from shopping on a Google Merchant Center through Google Merchant Center, and you have the headlines and descriptions, kind of like search, but you can't put in the keywords. And then the other aspect of a Performance Max campaign is the demand gen, where you're putting video, images, and you could really go into the audiences and basically create a lookalike audience of who you want to retarget through a display network or through the Discover, Gmail, Shorts. So this is good to utilize for sure. But for me, it's really, I would really over anything else, the standalone demand gen, not really too much experience from me, just because I would just rather run a Performance Max campaign. But maybe Ryan could chime in here and kind of provide some context of where you would like to use a demand gen campaign.
Yeah, I think demand gen is actually fairly decent. If you want to keep your campaigns separate and say, right, I've got a search campaign, I have a standard shopping campaign, but I do want to test, Discover and Gmail and YouTube without running a Performance Max campaign, because Performance Max campaigns are just like a bull in a china shop. They go in and they just take up all the conversions, all the cost, all the impressions, all the clicks, and they leave nothing else for the other campaigns. Once you've spent your Performance Max budget, that's when your other campaign types can turn on and run, essentially. Let's just say, for example, you've got a search campaign, or no, a standard shopping campaign. In fact, let's use that method. And you've got a Performance Max campaign. That standard shopping campaign is not going to run all day until your Performance Max campaign is out of budget. Once it's spent up, that's when it's going to start using a standard shopping campaign. And that's going to kick in then and start to perform. So basically, if you want to keep those separate without running Performance Max, demand gen is the best thing to do, because then you can start to see, right, where am I market hanging out? Is it on Gmail? Is it on YouTube? Is it on Discover channel? And it just gives you that testing campaign to say, can we get cheaper leads? Can we get cheaper conversions, cheaper sales from other, less thought of, maybe even less used, like Gmail and Discovery channel, get cheaper conversions coming through. So it can be a good campaign type to run if you've got the budget, and if you've got, if you've ran campaigns for a long time, they're all dialed in, and you just want to test a little bit more horizontally, look to use a demand gen.
Beautifully said. I like that. I really like that. Yeah, and that's why, me and Ryan provide this value, because like we said before, you learn twice, especially when you're going through these notes again and understanding the nature of the industry that you're in. There's some things that, maybe you forget or maybe isn't as prevalent. And, I appreciate Ryan for always being thorough with what he says and the value that he brings. But yeah, so that's my portion of the recap. And, I think this was uh, a good series, but we're ready to move on to the next, right, Ryan?
Yeah, hell yeah. I think yeah, we went through a lot. I think the first couple of series has all been about laying the foundations for you guys and giving you the theory and the basic fundamentals of, why you should run these campaigns and how to optimize them and, not how to optimize them, but like the theory behind what we do. I think Gene and I are both excited to really get more into the nitty gritty of the details of the campaigns and start to show you guys how to do certain things, how to make changes here and there and just really start to get to grips with Google Ads. So that's going to be a little bit more hands-on, I think a little bit more exciting, more of the practical kind of stuff. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to get more into the practicality of how to actually optimize Google Ads and, evolve from the level of just high overview to more so of the granularity that provides more nuances, where we could actually flex some of our own processes and experiences and talk through what we saw and seen and see right now with the clients that we manage. Because a lot of Google Ads is situational, and a lot of it is not copy and paste. So to say that, all of these campaign types, you should run this, this, that, and these are the best practices. Yes, but there are so many different nuances that we can get into in the future, which will be future episodes for y'all to digest, listen to, and watch on YouTube. So, Ryan, tell them where they can find you and any last words from your end.
Yeah, last words are if you guys have noticed that I keep looking like this to the left, it's because it's really late here in the UK. It's like at 10 o'clock. And it's a very I'm in the office at the bottom of the garden. It's very creaky and dark. And I've just started watching the new Fallout series, so I'm just expecting loads of like zombies and things to come and attack me. And I'm pretty sure there's bats, so it's just kind of throwing me off. But if you want to hear more about my horror stories and me working super late on you guys' account, then you can find me at ryanfentonppc.co.uk and ryanfentonppc on x.com, and also as a co-host for the PPC Cave. Gene, where can people find you?
Well, first of all, the new Fallout is great on Amazon Prime. We're not sponsored, but I've seen me and my wife have seen it, the first episode. So anyway, tangent. But they can find me at genevillanos.com, also on YouTube. I'm not really active on there, but you could get on genevillanos.com and see where I'm at. I actually made a new TikTok today, so maybe that's another episode where we just go through and answer some questions on my TikTok since it's been so long. I've been working on this with Ryan, and I'd rather funnel all the questions through here. You could definitely do that through theppccave@gmail.com. Again, theppccave@gmail.com. A reminder, every Monday we release an episode at 12 a.m. Mountain Time. That's both on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And I think we're at 51 subscribers on YouTube. So get us to the 500 and we'll be able to do that live audit for y'all. I want to keep teasing that. I'm putting that out there. But it's been a really fun ride thus far. Over 50 subscribers, and we're just only going to get to better and bigger things and provide more value. So if there's nothing else, we'll see everyone next time. I keep saying see. We'll talk to everyone next time. And until then, ciao.